Hello and welcome. This is Jonathan Aslay, founder of Understand Men Now. I'm your guy spy into the male mind, heart protector for women, single looking for love, and those in relationship. I'm so excited to be doing this interview about meeting men offline. And it's a question that comes up so often because we now have kind of been indoctrinated into the online method of meeting and dating apps and Facebook and the whole social media network and so forth. So I'm really excited to be interviewing Camille, Virginia, who is an expert at helping people meet offline. And I'm sharing with you, I don't have your bio in front of you, Camille, so if you could kind of tell everyone what you do and we'll go from there.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a little different. So basically, I'm an offline dating coach and expert, and I help single women who are burned out with online dating and apps get the skills and confidence to meet men in the real world. So when they're just out and about living life at the grocery store, the dry cleaners, just tapping into those everyday opportunities.
So let's just jump right into it because I don't want to get into, and by the way, before we end, I want you to be able to share with everyone any free gifts you have or that sort of thing. So,
Sure.
so for those listening, there's going to be something awesome at the end. All right, so let's get real for a second. And I say real is that for the age demographic that I coach, it's midlife single. So average age is what I call after baby making years before retirement. So if you're 42 or 69 listening to this, that's the demographic I speak to. And, right now, from what I've observed, 50% of all new relationships are happening through an online connection, whether it's a dating app, whether it's a online dating site, whether it's Facebook, those types of things. So, I mean, they're meeting somewhere else, offline, if you will. But I think it's more of a challenge as the older you get. So you mentioned something earlier about confidence. So I'd really like to just explore this whole conversation of meeting offline, and we'll just jump into different places. So I'm going to let you go from wherever you think you want to start.
Okay. Yeah, I know you and I have talked about this, that the older you get, the smaller the pool is.
Yeah.
And my whole thing is I'm not anti-online dating, but
Okay.
I just want to give women the option to not have to just date online. So to tap into those everyday opportunities that I know they're missing, because I used to miss them.
Yeah.
We can get so focused on things, especially as women, where we're like, all right, I've got to go to the dry cleaners. I've got to do all this stuff before I leave on vacation. Check. And you can literally pass 1,000 men within, like one day, within an arm's reach, and you're not tapping into any of that. So that's where I like to just give the tools to help out with those. So,
all right. So let's talk about some of those tools.
Yeah. So my first step, and this is in the free guide that I'll give your audience, but it's about being approachable. So it's literally not even having to open your mouth.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is it's in your awareness of things. So I know you coach with the law of attraction.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So one of my tips is to, before you step foot outside your house, set an intention for who you want to meet and why, and just give yourself 10 seconds to think about it. Like, who do I want to meet? Do I want to get a date for the weekend? Do I want to meet a new friend? That kind of thing, and have a little fun with it. And planting that seed will help you kind of stay aware as you're going through all these other things you have to do for the next few hours of, oh yeah, my intention. Okay. Oh, that guy kind of smiled at me. I'm a little bit more aware of that as opposed to must pick up cereal in aisle 7.
I have on my front door, I would turn the camera. It says, I'm open and receptive to love. It's the last thing I see when I walk out of the house. So it's just
I love it.
Reminder. So I love that idea, set an intention, which I think is great because you mentioned the law of attraction, and I'm a believer of what you put out, you get back. So setting an intention, and there's a fine line between, and tell me if you agree or disagree, having an agenda when you go out there versus an intention. Because if you have an agenda, it sometimes can override the organic way of meeting someone. Do you agree?
Agreed. And it also puts pressure on you and it takes the fun out of it. So, I've worked with women who get so focused on the outcome
Yeah.
When I give them a goal that, okay, well, I didn't get a date this weekend and I went to all these places, so it was a failure. Like, no, every time that you do something outside of your comfort zone and give a compliment or give a smile where you normally wouldn't, you're putting money in that bank. So it's all adding up.
I like that. You're making deposits in your bank account every time you're putting out positive energy, if you will.
Yeah.
So, all right. So let me just speak as a guy, okay? Because I really have a hard time walking up to a complete stranger to start a conversation. I mean, it'd be one thing if I'm opening the door for someone, or helping with a grocery bag or that sort of thing. But really, for me, initiating a conversation with some sort of intent that's maybe dating related, and I'll just say it in the back of my mind rather than the forefront of my mind, is really hard. In other words, I struggle that as a man. I mean, so for me even to even approach a woman, I need like a strong invitation. Like if that invitation doesn't feel strong, I don't walk up to a total stranger. Any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I would say, and tell me if you agree, but
And by the way,
most
this isn't about me. I'm talking about from the woman's perspective,
yeah,
Okay, go.
no, absolutely.
Yeah.
So most of the women I work with would love the man to make the first move. And first
Yeah.
of all, I don't think that has to be the case. There's
Yeah.
very safe ways for the woman to put it out to be open and receptive. And I'm happy
Yeah.
to go over some of those. But
Great.
also, my job as the woman is to make it easy and comfortable for you, the man, to come up to me, because everyone is afraid of rejection. And actually, I don't know if women know this, but men are more afraid of rejection than women are. I've read studies on it. And
Yeah.
so they're just as terrified, And so I try to help women say, all right, it's like a team effort here. You got to
Yeah.
like meet them halfway. You don't have to necessarily start it, but you got to give that look, got to give that smile. You got to give something to give him the green light. So, that you're not going to, publicly embarrass him
Yeah.
and bruise his ego in public.
I going to back to men fear rejection. I do believe as we get older, for men, our testosterone levels begin to drop and our estrogen levels begin to increase. So we actually don't have that same drive to chase as we get older, and we become even more sensitive. So I'm speaking as a guy over 50. I totally fear rejection. Like I'd rather go get a shot at the dentist than to be rejected, or, getting a Novocaine shot or
Yeah.
arm versus getting rejected by a woman. So,
Oh, man.
and I'm
There
not
you
saying,
go. I mean, that's a perfect example.
and I know there are plenty of men out there that have no problem walking up to women. We talked about a mutual friend of ours that's kind of the approaches, but I believe that's the exception and not the rule. So
Absolutely.
let's talk about a couple of the things you mentioned. I know it's going to be in the free gift that you're offering, but what can a woman do to invite the guy like me, who's nervous and reluctant, to approach you just to start a conversation?
So, I also say dress for confidence in a conversation. So
Okay.
men are very visual. And if you just wear something a little bit different, so it gives them the opportunity to comment on it. A lot of the
Okay.
random, intros I've been through have been like, oh, I like your red scarf or this or that. And also, I think a lot of women, our society is very relaxed these days. And so we're wearing our comfy yoga pants everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's not really about the comfy yoga pants. It's about how it makes us feel. And
Yeah.
we're in the grocery store with our yoga pants and some attractive man comes up to us, we're going to be like, oh God, why did I wear my yoga pants? So
See, now I think yoga pants are sexy.
and it depends on how they make you feel, right? So if
Yeah.
you're like, I'm superwoman in these yoga pants, these are like $150 yoga pants, they make my butt look good, like hell yeah, I can take on the world.
Yeah.
Then wear those yoga pants by
Yeah.
all means. But if it makes you kind of like want to shy and shrink away, don't wear them.
Okay, got it. So it's what the woman is feeling about what she's wearing. So, okay.
Yes.
Because I know when I'm out in public, I walk the beach every day and I'm dressed in my casual workout clothes. Another thing, I'm reluctant to meet someone because I'm not dressed.
Aha. Well,
Now,
there we go.
but that's because I'm going to be sweaty and everything else too. So, but that's kind of the difference between when you're actually fixated on your workout versus after your workout and that sort of thing. So, okay, so dress what feels good to you and makes you feel good about yourself. Is that one?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
excellent. What else?
So I'm big on smiling. I'm a pretty smiley person. I know not
Yeah.
everyone is.
I love your smile, by the way. It's so infectious.
Oh, thank
Um,
you. I'm a pretty happy person. But I will say I don't go around smiling all the time. That would just
yeah,
be weird. Like,
yeah,
why is that girl smiling all the time?
yeah.
Like, that's annoying. So, uh, I say, if you can't smile all the time, and this is actually one of my weirder tips, but breathe through your mouth. So become a mouth breather. If you notice on magazine covers and billboards and
Okay.
things like that, if the cover, the lady on the cover isn't smiling, her
Yeah.
mouth is open a little bit. So kind of like come hither-esque.
Okay.
And this avoids resting bitch face, which
Yeah.
the struggle is real for resting bitch face. Like most women know they do it. They don't know how to solve it. This is how you solve it
Got
through your
it.
mouth. It just relaxes your whole face. Just
Okay.
trust me on it. It's weird, but try it.
Okay. I'm trying it right now. Now, I always say for those women that don't feel like they have a really good smile, or maybe they don't take good photographs, I always say chuckle before you take a photograph. Because when you chuckle, it might feel awkward, but the camera picks up an amazing energy. So just right now, the energy I'm feeling from you is that vivacious, enthusiastic energy. So when you chuckle, that's what the camera sees, even though it might feel awkward. So, and I know I'm trying to shift from what you said earlier about resting bitch face, because I've seen that from women, and it is the biggest turnoff. I'm speaking as a guy, ladies.
There you go.
There's that energetic wall that so many women put up. And I get it. You're meeting a total stranger for the first time. You have maybe your defenses up. But at the other end, that is it's so constrictive feeling it from a guy. And it's like right off the bat, we're like, we can't make this person happy. So we're just going to move on to the next one. So I totally agree with you. Having that energetic smile or that energetic energy is more inviting.
Absolutely. And one way to kind of combat that, because I do know as a woman, it can be, especially I live in Chicago, it's a big city,
Yeah.
not the most safest city either. And so I get that we can feel vulnerable and, we put up that wall. But at the same time, those same women want that coffee shop meeting moment, and
Yeah.
it's incongruent. So what I say is another thing to practice whenever you walk into a new space, whether that's getting on the bus, a lobby, anything, just do a quick look around.
Okay.
And this is for like safety and awareness purposes, but
Okay.
also I'll tell you, and let me know if you agree with this, Jonathan,
Okay.
but the single men are looking around and I don't even think they know they're doing it, but they're constantly like this. And so if you give that moment of you walk in, you can kind of get a scope for the lay of the land so you don't sit next to
Yeah.
the crazy person talking to themselves.
Yeah.
You're also going to spot some single men. And then it's that much easier. You guys have seen each other. He
Yeah.
feels 10 times braver to come up and say something.
You're so right about one thing. So ladies that you're listening to this, we totally do scan our environment and maybe that's kind of our predator, our caveman kind of thing. But there is a little bit of that looking around. Certainly if I'm a single guy. I will share with you a quick little story. I once was at a Jamba Juice, and I saw this really pretty young girl walk in. And I say young girl because it turned out she was 20 years younger than me. And I felt uncomfortable once I learned that, but to be quite honest. But she smiled at me, I smiled at her, and then I went off waiting for my drink. And then she walked over and she asked a question about the t-shirt I was wearing. She says, "Are you a fireman?" Because the emblem on the shirt looked like one, and it turned out to be a lifeguard t-shirt, not a fireman t-shirt. But it started the conversation. And just that one little bit allowed me to then take the conversation to multiple different levels. And we sat outside, drank our juice, and then we exchanged phone numbers. So I know that just even though we had the eye contact, she asked me a question. So I'm bringing this up, and maybe that was the third thing you were going to talk about. But is that a technique women should do, or help us out here?
Absolutely. Yeah. So getting into the, once you kind of see each other and
Yeah.
you're like, all right, we're smiling. Where do we
Yeah.
go from here?
Yeah.
Is to just break that ice,
Okay.
And so with that, I tell my female clients, it's going to be something random. This guy if he approaches you, he's going to be thinking of something on the fly before, you might be going in different directions. He might
Yeah.
have 5 seconds before you get off the train.
Yeah.
just go with it. It's not about your shoes. It's not about the weather. He's trying to break the ice and engage you, and just go with it. So no matter what random thing a guy says to me, I'll just immediately be like, oh yeah, oh, well, blah, 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 blah. And like tell a little story or something, and not be like, ugh, weirdo. Don't do that. So, and that's what if a guy approaches. And I mean, women can also say something like, she complimented or commented on your t-shirt. Just start with little things like that. It's very safe. You know, what if you, she started talking to you and then she saw, oh, he's got a wedding ring on. That's fine. She would have said the same thing to a woman about the shirt too. So it's very safe to do little things like that. And like you said, look how much of a difference it made. You ended up going out and, you know, exchanging phone numbers and sitting outside and talking, just one line.
No, we've become good friends ever since. I mean, we're on Facebook friends and we don't date or anything like that. But it struck me that there are going to be times when a woman gets approached by a guy that they're not interested in. In other words, and that's got to be really awkward for a woman, because whether they've made contact or not, there's going to be men that approach just regardless. Am I right?
There are. I'm going to challenge women on this, though, because unless you really, I mean, unless he's giving off a very unsafe, creepy vibe, of which I'd say maybe 1 in 10 to 20 guys would do that. Like, it's probably more on her that she's just uncomfortable and not used to it. So I would try to push that limit, unless you're, again, getting your feminine intuitions like red alert. Yeah. And you know, get out of it then. But it might be just more that you're shy and uncomfortable because you're not used to it. Because nothing surprises me anymore. I'll be out somewhere and someone will start talking to me, and I can tell immediately whether they're going to be creepy or just they want to, you know, chat me up or something.
You said something though, it just struck me, because I think there's a big difference between intuition and sometimes being picky. And so, and I say this because I read and see this a lot, and both men and women are equally picky. So let me just not say this isn't just a female thing, but I think if you're not attracted to a guy, you know, is that your intuition talking, or is it just at the moment you're not attracted to him? Am I making sense there?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think, being picky can be a defense mechanism for keeping yourself safe. Like, oh, I'm putting myself out there. Oh, well, he's 1 inch shorter than my ideal height. Not going to work. You know, like that kind of stuff doesn't matter. And deep down women know that, and men too. But yeah, and unless you just dated so much that you have a really good read on people, like, well, for example, I was not attracted to, hate to say this, but any of my boyfriends when I first met them. I just wasn't physically there was like, oh, okay, yeah, they're fine. They're not the hottest guy in the room. And then when I started to get to know them and we got in a relationship and I fell in love with some of them, they were the most attractive man in the world to me. So you cannot go based on like, oh, well, he's not the most handsome guy in the room. Ladies, you often don't want the most handsome guy in the room because the most handsome guy in the room knows he is. And there's a big ego that comes with that. So, and same with women too.
Exactly. I was going to say, I don't like to date the most beautiful woman in the room because there's some ego involved there too. So
yeah, exactly.
And I agree with you. You know, now I got sidetracked. I wanted to go down. Let's shift gears for a second.
Sure.
So, besides just the wink or the flirt or the smile, what else, or even commenting on something they're wearing, what are other ways you can meet offline? And I'm talking about versus the random coffee shop. Are there other ways to meet that's more intentional, like going to a speed dating event or going to a social event, those types of things? So I just wanted to shift gear from the random to the more strategic, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. I have a couple clients one of whom met her boyfriend at a singles event. And so I say, definitely go do that. All the skills that I teach are applicable, whether you meet randomly or intentionally at an organized event. It's just people skills, you know? So I would say whatever you have fun with. If you've never done speed dating or a singles event, try it out. And if you have fun and you know, maybe you're a little nervous, but you end up having a good time, do a couple more. If it's absolutely the worst experience you've ever had, then, you know, maybe try one more. But again, if that happens and it's not your thing, then don't pressure yourself to do it. But I say wherever you're having fun, because when you're having fun and you have that energy about you that you're enjoying something, like you're just, people are drawn to you.
Yeah. You know, it just occurred to me that, you know, and I mentioned speed dating event, but there's also those places that you like to go, whether it's if you're a real estate agent, it's a networking event, or I'm trying to think of all the variety of places you can meet. It just occurred to me that one of the things you do is really, when you work privately with a client, and I wanted to shift gears to, you're really helping them build the confidence to meet offline, whereas one of my strengths is building that confidence to meet with, in the online realm. That's more my specialty. But it goes, so because this is really about confidence, am I right? Is that feeling good about yourself, feeling comfortable in your own skin to make a connection with another human being versus the defensiveness and resting bitch face and that sort of thing. Can you just spend a minute, talk about how you work with a client privately?
Yeah.
And by the way, I'm saying this for those listening because I want you to go to this young lady for help. This is my area of expertise. I'd like clients to go to you. So can you talk a little bit about how you work with someone privately?
Yeah, thanks, Jonathan. So my coaching program, I love that you said confidence. My coaching program is called Confidence, Connection, Charisma. And it's kind of like a pyramid where confidence is that crucial base that you have. The rest of it can't come until you have confidence. And so working privately, I see where women are just getting stuck, what beliefs they have in their head of, I can't talk to people, or I can't meet people, like, stranger danger, or where are they getting stuck? Or can they maybe get to the smile and flirty part, and then they don't know how to they don't know how to get off the small talk and create a meaningful connection, that kind of thing. So that's how I'll dig in and I'll see like where exactly they're getting stuck, what we need to build up, and then I'm all about action. So you'll get weekly homework assignments to take action and break that barrier finally once and for all.
So do you teach small talk techniques, that sort of thing?
I actually advocate to get off the small talk. I'm an introvert. And so I a random icebreaker is fine, but I will not talk about the weather for more than 30 seconds. I will hone in on something they said or ask a meaningful question, like that kind of thing. And I mean, I've had this is having that ability to create meaningful connections wherever you go. Just, you have such a great fulfillment of life when you do that everywhere. Could be for romantic purposes when you meet people, or it could just be a new friend or a meaningful moment. But when you have that ability to not hide and be afraid and actually take control and be like, no, I'm going to find out something interesting about this person and I may never see them again, but that's okay.
So are you open to sharing one type of thing? Because I love this piece. I love more in-depth connections than surface connections.
Yes.
So I like to talk about atoms and wormholes and things like that.
Cool.
And the Death Star.
We should talk about this. I didn't know that.
No, but there's a meme that talks about that, but on Facebook, but because it might be intrusive to go into a deep question with someone you don't know. But and really, when I think about like first dates, I really abhorred that small talk. I like going deeper, but a lot of coaches will say that's not appropriate. You shouldn't go deeper. And there's a fine line between, TMI, of course, and sharing a bit about your values and that sort of thing. So is there one example you can give our audience here of maybe a deep question that isn't intrusive?
Absolutely. So one that I recently wrote an email to my list about was about, I was actually doing a Wingwoman Session. So I take women out in Chicago and help them meet men, and again, can see exactly where they're getting stuck because I'm right there next to them when it happens. And so we went to a grocery store to practice with one of my clients, and there was a woman who was passing out hummus samples. And so she was practicing just talking like, oh, tell me about the hummus, blah, blah, blah. And the woman said this little nugget. She's like, oh, this is really great hummus. It's part of my culture, blah, blah, blah. And kept talking. And I was like, wait a second. Wait, what culture? And she said Lebanese. And I said, oh, wow. And then I started asking like, oh, I know there's been a lot going on with the current political stuff. Like, has that affected you at all? And this is literally a conversation within a minute. And she pulls out her phone and shows me a picture of her niece getting married overseas and starts crying because she can't attend the wedding because she's afraid of getting back. And so that's a meaningful conversation. I literally just asked about what's your culture, something very personal, but not too deep at all. No one asks that about people, I teach to be naturally curious. Like if there's something I love travel and ethnicities and cuisine and stuff. And so for me, I was like, ooh, let's go there. Let's talk about that.
I love that. I love that. I love asking questions like, where did you grow up? Tell me your experience about that, those types of things. It's going beyond the surface, like you're saying, what's the weather and that sort of thing. Well, we're almost out of time. So I was just wondering if there's any extra few tips you can give our audience about how to meet men offline that we didn't cover and that might not be in the workbook that you're going to be sharing.
I would say a big one is to not overthink things. And I was completely guilty of this. So I
Okay.
empathize with anyone who overthinks things.
Okay.
But how often do we go about our day and look at someone and say, oh, wow, that's a really cool scarf they're wearing, or just something random like that. And we
Yeah.
keep it to ourselves. We don't say anything.
Yeah.
So I would challenge listeners, the next time you have that thought about someone, then maybe it's like a positive thought, not a
Yeah.
negative one, say it out loud. Take it from your mind to your mouth immediately and just say it. And don't even hesitate, because the longer you hesitate, the more fearful you're going to be, the more awkward it is going to be when it comes out. So just say it. That's my challenge.
It just occurred to me, and this is something I want to do for myself. What I think one of the key components you're teaching is that it doesn't take much effort to put yourself out there a little bit. And what I mean by a little bit is just, giving some positive, loving energy to the people around you. And by starting with an intention, before you leave the door, just being, and like mine says, open, receptive to love, that's just the intention I want to set, is that I'm open and receptive to love. But then it's also just a slight engage. And I think, and tell me if I'm wrong, the more you do it, the more you do it, and the more you do it, and the more you do it, and the more you do it. It's not that it's about meeting that person every single time you do it, is that the more you're in that flow of energy, it's going to happen in a totally different realm. It could happen in a totally different place, but it's because you've been putting that energy out there. That's why you're going to be more open and receptive to love. Do you agree?
100%. And all it takes is one. So when you're in that flow and you just make it a habit, and I definitely don't talk to everyone every time I go out. I'm an introvert. I can't do that. But I know how to exercise that muscle because I've done it so many times, and it gets easier and easier. And so, when that right person does come along, you're ready. You're ready. And you can just jump right into it, have a meaningful conversation. And that's all it takes, is just doing it with the right person, because you warmed up your social skills for months beforehand.
Love it, love it, love it. All right, so share with our group the free gift that you're going to offer, and we're going to wrap up.
All right. So my free gift is called Dating App Detox, the ultimate guide to getting a date without going online. And it's a 50+ page guide to a lot of the stuff that we talked about, but about 10 times more content as well, and tips. And they can find that at masterofflinedating.com /understanding men.
Okay. All right. I just don't remember. Say it one more time. By the way, there'll be a button somewhere here, wherever you're watching this. That'll be a link too.
It's masterofflinedating.com /understanding men.
Yay. By the way, I had to put my glasses on a few times because I could barely see the screen.
Oh, that's so funny.
Virginia, I want to thank you so much for allowing me to interview, teaching a few techniques for our audience to meet men offline. And it's really all about that, being in that great energy. And I love that you teach this. So for those listening, please check out her free gift, go to her website, learn about what she does. This is someone I recommend that you work with. So if you're ready to go that next level, this is a young lady I definitely want you to talk to. So for everyone listening, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. And I want to wish you all a super fabulous day. And I'm going to hit the record button somewhere. Hey.
Yay! Thanks so much, Jonathan.
Okay, did I end meeting or did I stop? Oh,